member or sorority member is found to have done that after the fact, let's say that it's a conference and there are leaders, there are people from the fraternity leaders that are at that conference, and they see an Omega man, as they're called, with an Omega Psi Phi emblem on his arm, do they automatically revoke his status? Is it illegal for him to get a brand? Do they reject him because he has branded himself? Because they say that it's illegal to do it. So the question is, do they now disband members as a result of them having done it? And the answer is absolutely not. It's not done. Because it obviously is forwarding the real agenda of these fraternities and sororities. It's making people give themselves over to something else. It already honors a false god, so how can an organization honor a false god and then expect the members of that organization to respect holy and moral virtues such as preserving the body?
Let's take a look at branding. The origin of branding could be the ancient treatment of a slave without rights. According to Wiki, millions were branded during the transatlantic slave movement. Now, the definition on Google of brand is an identifying mark burned on livestock or especially former criminals or slaves with a branding iron. So let's take a look into the origin of the chant or the call. This goes all the way back to when blacks were enslaved in America. They actually used these calls to specify locations or express emotions through song, which were often in a call and response tradition. After slavery, the value of the call and response tradition had kind of changed. The northern blacks kind of frowned upon it and had a bit of distaste in their mouth.
Look at these clown ass niggas.
Let's take a look at the main showcase, the stepping. Let's look at the origin of stepping. This goes all the way back to something's called gumboot dancing. Gumboot dancing came from the
Black
19th
slaves.
century. It was a form of self-expression for isolation workers who carried the migrant labor law system and oppressive caste
dance.
Bastards.
It was considered a means of survival. Blacks worked in gold mines
I
in
see that
South
one
Africa for long, strenuous hours. It was harsh and horrible conditions, and there was no talking aloud. Now, the mines would constantly flood out, and their bosses, the Caucasian workers in higher positions known as foremen, did not want to pay to fix this problem, as it would cut into the profit. The poor drainage resulted in hours of standing and working in wet conditions, which would leave workers with ulcers and skin irritations. Now, this was slowing down production, so the foreman issued rubber boots, heavy black Wellington boots. They also issued jeans or overall suspenders and bandanas for the sweat. Now, above the mines, workers lived in poor and crowded living conditions. They were forced to live in groups grouped by tribe and ethnic groups, and as a result of this harsh condition, workers adapted traditional dances and rhythms with all that they had, their feet and their bodies, or the gumboots and bodies, which is what we know today as stepping. The songs were sung with frenetic movements which dealt with working class life, family, love, drinking, low wages, harsh bosses, and this actually led to enlightened employers to capitalize or commercialize this dance. They gathered the best dancers and used them to entertain their visitors, creating a new market which cost them nothing.
All masonry is, whether it's Freemasonry or ancient accepted Freemasonry, is to serve the community, serve the public, and those men are good character, just willing to help their fellow neighbor. We could not go to the Rotary Club or the Lions Club or downtown or go to different YMCAs or hotels or convention centers. And Masonry was what the community had to bring everybody together.
Look at that
As a
nigga looking
result,
like Eddie Murphy
Masonry,
sitting up
in
top.
my opinion, was the biggest
Look at these goat
organization
riding black
dealing
bastards.
with the ills of segregation back
Got
in the
niggas
20s,
running
30s,
around
and
calling
40s.
themselves Hebrew
King Jacob was the
Israelites.
biggest lodge in
Goat
the state, at
riders.
one time boasting 150 members, but the number of men wearing
Need
the
they
Mason's
ass
apron has
whooped.
declined.
In all community-based organizations, the membership and the population is dropping, but we are losing members through attrition, and our young people don't understand that because of organizations
No,
like
I'm
our
helping them wake the
organization,
young
these
people up not
youngsters
to
can now
join
live
you
anywhere
goat
in Oklahoma
riding
City they want
sneaky
to live,
bastards.
go to any college they want to go to, and succeed, but they don't understand the struggle that we had to go through to provide this. And as a result, young people don't see the importance of coming in and serving the community where they were born and raised.
In those days went out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. 1 Maccabees 1, verse 11, King James Version, 16:11.
Look at them standing up there. Goat riding bastards. Envy thou not the oppressor.
And choose none of his ways.
None of his ways. But look at these niggas. Look at 'em.
Always want to join the white man.
Might see your Uncle Leroy, Cousin Rufus.
There was Uncle Johnny back there.
You see niggas
Look, they got
calling
Uncle
themselves
Cecil.
Israelites. Ain't that right, Free Case Ray and MC Champ Champ? Got their little aprons designs. Be the Rosicrucians. And today uniforms. You think them goat riders gonna save Grandmaster J sorry looking ass from them 20 years in the federal penitentiary he facing? Them crackers don't give a damn about none of you bootlicking niggas. There's even racism by this cracker and worshiping the devil. Cause the Scottish and York whites took these niggas out to Prince Hall Lodge all the way to the Supreme Court trying to make them take off them leather aprons and stop doing them secret handshines and goat riding ceremonies. But the United States Supreme Court ruled the Prince Hall Masons are just as much a Mason as the Scottish and York Rite. Hell, you take the same damn wicked satanic ceremony word for word and act for act. But them white crackers of the Scottish and York Rite still can't stand these coon-ass niggas running up behind the pink buttocks of these cracker goat riders. You niggas is sick. George Washington with his battle.
Yes, sir, I do like to talk. Is that a virtue or a vice? Well, I have to admit, I've always wanted to be the quiet, mysterious type. Only I couldn't keep my mouth shut long enough.
Would you punch yourself in a street fight, Mr. Burgess?
No, sir.
And don't punch yourself in a word fight. You don't have to make fun of yourself. Use your humor against your opponent. Mr. Palmer.
Yes, sir.
Happy Mr. Palmer. Tell us one thing we don't know about your father.
He was the first Negro PhD.
One thing we don't know about your father, Mr. Palmer.
He walked from Florida to Massachusetts to go to college at Boston University. He graduated magna cum laude.
Mr. Lowe. Tell us about your father.
Why don't you tell us something about your father?
We're trying to get to know each other, Mr. Lowe.
I was trying to get to know you, Mr. Tolson.
I'm not the one on the debate team.
Are we not engaged in a debate right now?
All right. I'll take the affirmative. Take the meanest, most restless nigger. Strip him of his clothes in front of the remaining male niggers, female niggers, and nigger infants. Tar and feather him. Tie each leg to a horse facing in opposite direction, set him on fire, and beat both horses until they tear him apart. In front of the male, female, and nigger infants. Bullwhip and beat the remaining nigger males within an inch of their life. Do not kill them, but put the fear of God in them, for they can be useful for future breeding. Anybody know who Willie Lynch was? Anybody? Raise your hand. No one? He was a vicious slave owner in the West Indies. The slave masters in the colony of Virginia were having trouble controlling their slaves, so they sent for Mr. Lynch to teach them his methods. The word lynching came from his last name. His methods were very simple, but they were diabolical. Keep the slave physically strong, but psychologically weak and dependent on the slave master. Keep the body, take the mind. I and every other professor on this campus are here to help you to find, take back, and keep your righteous mind. Because obviously you have lost it.
Another outstanding effort by the brother over there in England, putting his journalistic and research skills, combining it with his production and video, and bringing it in a concise format. We salute our eye, thoughts, efforts, action for another outstanding video presentation that we were glad to share with Israelites all over the world. Focus walk on the dark side. We wanted to inspire Dana, God in Paradise, and all the other Hebrews who are helping the turtle draw of these children of the devil to continue to get it in. There's a platform greater than them heights. YouTube.
Thank you for watching False Camera Action. Before you go anywhere,